Alright, Chapter 10, Inspection Requirements. General, the section contained with the minimum requirement of the section of the welded joint of the machinery pipe and the pressure vessel. The section is not applicable to the components listed in section 12, 13, 14, and 15. Forming a non-destructive test performed in accordance with military standard 2731 with the radiographic testing specified with the geometry of the part of the weld with the radiograph testing is not technically practical. Alternate inspection systems should be approved with the Navsea System Command. The magnetic and particle thickness inspection must be applied about both root and backside accessible to the finished weld surface. Should be inspected with the pneumatic testing must be in lieu of the hydrostatic testing pressure test of the pneumatic system. Extent of the inspection method: the Class M machinery, welded joint class machinery, and main machinery components. Extent of the welded joint, turbines, propulsion, auxiliary gears. Section 13 and 14 should be inspected specified in Table 8. And it shows machinery class category welded joint, root layer and fillet welds with a visual magnetic particle and radiograph testing. And then the notes. And it shows lethal gasoline butt weld joint pipes, or piping size welded joint pipe size of the root layer, filament weld, root layer, welded 5/3 extent radial traffic and pressure. Alright, 10.3.3, Class A pressure vessels, Class C turbines, welded joint, and class pressure vessels should be inspected specified with the Table 10, with except for the weld with the forced draft blowers should be inspected with the corners for the Section 16, welded in Class D. Turbines should be inspected with the corners in Section 14, Table 10, Class A pressure vessel inspection requirement. Show the pressure vessel classes, welded type joint, visual testing of the 10 times root layer and fillet weld, magnetic particle, 9 times root weld, and fillet weld, radial testing weld, 7 and 8, and X pressure. Alright, 10.3.4, repaired weld, completed weld of repaired weld defects if required, specification 7th, inspect with the same non-destructive method required for original weld with additional weld blended with has been the surface previously except for the radiological ultrasonic testing welded. Finished repair weld, thickness of the 3/16 of an inch, 20% of the base metal thickness, whichever the level of finish layer of the maybe inspect with the magnetic particle weld method. Acceptance of the criteria shall be also specified with weld close class involved. Base metal repair. Surface defects and damaged base material that may be repair weld that provide with the repair weld adjacent metal. Inspect for the shame of the weld with the required with the class of the welding excavation of the pipe within the socket of the bore. The depth of the socket welds are not required to be repaired. Excavation in the way of the fillet weld of the socket welds may be destroyed during the weld and considered parts of the fillet weld of the weld repair of the next. Except for the defined with the minor cast repair for Section 13.2 can be made with the wrought material that discretion the fabricator provide with all the requirements of the document are met. More extensive weld repair should require approval, except if not approval should be required with the repair with an approved standard repair procedure included. Welded parameters inspection recorded requirements meeting all requirements specified here in the military standard 248. The radiological test requirement for the class of the welding magnetic and particle test may be diluted with the radiological test finish weld thickness. If it does not see 3/8 of an inch half of the design thickness of the base material, whichever the less. In addition, the radiological test would normally be required with the class of the welding involved, and the repair falls within the non-fluid boundary level of the misdrill, the flange bolt holes, or so forth. The case basis approval of delete with the radiological test may be detained from the authorized representative. Pairs of piping 1, piping limited A1, A2, A3, A, and F, and A limited components of the documented record that maintain available to the authorized representative review. This repair record should include the following name and identification of the component with the description of defects repair. Location, length, the width, the depth of the excavation, base for the material, welded filler, material of the post heat weld, heat treatment where applicable, the final inspection results. Arc structure, the removal of the sides of the weld attachment should be the ground with the air smoothly into base surface of the grinding, reduce the thickness of the below of the design requirements. The area should be restored with the welding, grinding, finishing, grounding errors. Whether repair welding or not, inspect with a magnet and particle visual at testing at 5 magnification. Where any of the following apply with the weldment class P1, P limited to A1, A2, A3, AF, and AL limited. Base material S1 with a carbon content of 35% of the greater S3, S3A, S4, S5, S6, S6A, S11, S51, S52, F53. Base metal weld repairs of the Class P3 brazed piping system components should be installed with incorporated 10.3.5 with using an appropriate equivalent weld of the piping system classification P1, P2 part, and P limited with the system after the matching of the brazed piping system. Fluid operating pressure, operating temperature for the equivalent welding pipe classification for these conditions. System conditions. Or weld building and weld up joint with the correct oversight of the root openings area of the joint. Preparation accomplished should be done prior to the fitting and left for the specialized approval. The otherwise build up the edge of the joint should not exceed 1/2 the thickness of the 1/2 inch wood. Ever left the T of the thickness in any way the where build up of the member of the being welded. The build up is allowed with both joints. The edges may be applied with one joint edge. Weld the deposit with cladding and hard surface buttering. Weld the deposit with the cladding and the hard surface shall be a visual and partial in inspection acceptance criteria in accordance with the 10.4.2 of the buttering shall be inspected with a magnetic and particle test as acceptable joint edge in the buttering prior to the joint welding and joint with the required with the radiographic inspection. Buttered edges shall be required with the radiographic inspection when the butted area of the complete weld is radiographed at the same time where magnetic and particle test completed the joint is required. All exposed surfaces of the buttered area shall be inspected during the inspection of the finished weld joint. In addition, the weld deposited buttering for the forms of the pressure boundary subject to the submergence pressure. They also record the ultrasonic testing inspection defect for the lack of the bond prior to the joint welding. Ultrasonic testing should be in accordance with the military specs standard 2710 and specified in 10441, except for the criteria should be in accordance with 10442. Loss of preheat entered pass. Welds over the preheat with the inner pass is permitted with the drop below the temperature specified in the table 4. Before completion of the job required the preheating of the necessary prior to resumption of the weld with the partial completed weld of the magnetic particle inspection prior to the resumption of the weld of the ferromagnetic filler metal material issue of the following condition of the temperature drop occur. TF3, S4, S5, S6, S7 the temperature drop more than 100 degrees Fahrenheit below the minimum specified table 4. S11A and 1 1/8 of an inch thicker material decreases less than 100 degrees Fahrenheit. S11B 5/8 of an inch thicker material temperature decreases less than 100 degrees Fahrenheit with a gas metal arc and 150 degrees for a shield metal arc. Inspection records for the not required for the loss of the preheat interpath temperature due to the mill 120 140 series filler materials paragraph 651 shall apply. Alright, 10.3.8. Tack welds incorporated for the final weld should be visually inspected and such the cracks and except the undercuts extract and entrap slag, except for the surface rough and the correct to the extent necessary to shiver the field weld quality requirements will be met. All cracks shall be removed except cracked or broken tack welds will need not to be removed or provided they may be made with a gas tungsten arc process. They may not permit movement of the joints components which cause the joint to exceed the fit up requirements of the may completely remelted in deposition first layer of the indeed the first layer made of the gas tungsten arc process. Seal welds. The final layer of the seal welds is inspected with the particle test. The magnetic particle test required with the class of the welding seal system involved in its specified governing equipment. The system specification other system seal welds shall be visually inspected. Substitution visual testing inspection. Visual testing inspection magnification 5 times more preferred blue with the particle inspection of the 1/4 inch open end of the weld. Pair root layer of the partial penetration weld with the wood permanent entrapment of the penetration materials. Non-structural welds covered in 612 shall be magnetic particle and 5 times the visual inspection for the show the freedom from cracks. Magnetic particle test of the mill 1405, 1205, and 12018 welded class A through F, A1, A2, ALT, P1, PLT, and M1 categories A and B. Finally, the magnetic particle test mill 120 S and mill 12018 butt welds class AF, A1, A2, ALT, P1, PLT, M1 category A and B shall be performed in accordance with additional MT requirements class for the A1 butt weld specified in the military standard 1688. For mill 1405 weld additional magnetic particle requirements should be approved with the Navy Sea System Command. Titanium and aluminum alloys. Final surface of titanium alloys include the inner surface of any of the welds in repair where accessible shall be included with the color and deposit with the condition by the qualified visual tester. Inspector borescope is not required except in the standard visual examination except in completed weld subject to the visual examination shall be basic performance with documents class requirements specified in table 9. Shows welding application mill standard 2350 visual inspection 5 time particle parting 2 to 4 and then classes mill standard 2035 radiological and mill standard 23 ultrasonic. And it shows class M1, M2, P1, PLT, P2, A1, A2, A3, A4, AF, and ALT limited. And then it goes into welding notes. 10.4.1.1 General visual testing inspection should be performed with a written procedure qualified personnel addition according to military standard 271. Visual testing inspection qualification training should be documented written procedure. Visual testing inspection should accomplish without with a magnifying glass or other visual aids except the corrective aids to restore the normal vision. Well, the visual testing inspection performed with the slag removal with the welds, final surface condition for welds S51 and F52 and F53. Material visual testing and inspection of the color contamination should be as well with the condition of the wire brushing and any other cleaning. After correlation except the color coordination, visual inspection of the color should be performed. Base material surface inspection of the shall be cleaned with the condition of the surfaces have been cleaned with the paint with a one coat with a primer considerable suitable for the inspection. 10.4.2 magnetic and particle test inspection. Acceptance of the weld adjacent material of the magnetic and particle inspection according to the chain of class with the requirements specified in the table 11. Acceptance criteria cladding, welding, overlay in accordance with the class specified with the weld application. However, the weld cladding is used to provide corrosion resistance for gasket seats. Similar application following acceptance criteria apply. O-ring or gasket C surfacing plug 1/8 inch or either side of the design gasket location line with a contact class 1. Other cladding normally subject to liquid pressure class 2. Other cladding normally dry, for example, low pressure side of the gasket class 3. 10.4.2.1 adjacent casting base material of the particle test indicates the casting base material adjacent to the fabrication weld may be evaluated by casing requirement of the particle test inspection according to the footnotes in the table of section 12. Evaluated the applicable casting and acceptance standards. Casting not required by particle testing inspection according to the footnote of the table in section 12 may be evaluated in 13.2.8.1. Radiographs are welded compared with the standard of the radiograph class in accordance with the table 11. Ultrasonic tests are accepted the welded subject to the ultrasonic test should be according with the applicable standard of the class specified in the table 11. Ultrasonic testing inspection welded deposited buttering. Prior to ultrasonic testing inspection welded deposited the buttering defect lack of the bond test of equipment should be calibrated with a calibration block fabricated with the buttering using the same process filler metal base material metal protection part of the equivalent S number of the base members may be used for the purpose for the S1, S2, S3, S4, SF5, S11 materials and consider the equivalent calibration block shall have the equivalent weld thickness of the surface production part of the shall be sufficient thickness to accommodate with the required calibration hole with the need to establish distance amplitude correction curve. Alright, calibration with the inspection mold of the weld deposit with the both welded and the metal defects with the lack of the bolt bond. Hole should be drilled with the back into the block as followed with either 1/8 inch diameter flat bottom hole drilled from the base metal side with the axis perpendicular sound beam entry should be the 1/16 diameter hole to the one at least 1.5 inches longer than should be drilled with the parallel to sound beam entry surface. Hole should be positioned following test method distances from the sound of the base entry surface to the next surface of the hole obtained. Deposit the thickness up to including 1/2 inch add 1/16 to TMD 2 divided by 2 of the TMD is plus or minus 1/32 of the inch. The total deposit of the thickness is 1/2 inch or less as TMD plus or minus 1/16 of an inch. For a deposit of less than 6/7 of an inch, the thickness divided by 2 the TMD hole may be diminished. Deposit the thickness over 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, half inch plus 1/4 inch, plus or minus 1/32 of the inch, TMD plus 1/16 of an inch. However, deposits greater than 1/2 inch, less than 1 inch, the T2 divided by 2 1/4 inch TMD hole is omitted. The all hole of the test block separated sufficiently to preclude the acoustic mechanical interference with the calibration. In case of the deposit of the metal with a 1/2 inch or less thickness for the test of equipment that should be adjusted, provided the indication that 85 to 90% of the full screen the height of the hole of the thickness divided by 2 the tail maximum dimension. All equipment setting the signal amplitude to the receiver the other for the 2 hole with the switch mark with the screen and all 3 signal with the connect with the meaning of the straight line for the provided the DAC curve. If the thickness divided by 2 of the TMD hole is omitted with the test equivalent should be adjusted to provide indication 85 to 90% of the full screen height of the reflective the greater signal amplitude of the peak of the signal and receiver the 2 holes will be connected with the straight line to form the DAC. In case of the deposit metal thickness is the 1/2 inch of the test equipment should be adjusted to provide the indication of an 85 to 90% full screen height of the hole, which reflects the greatest signal amplitude of the equipment setting with the indication of the remaining hole of the hole should be marked on the screening of the DAC curve made. Inspection production hardware the first 1/2 inch of the weld the deposit of the metal should be evaluated with the DAC curve specified with the A1 remaining thickness should be of the elevated view of the DAC curve is specified in A2. The horizontal sweep shall be adjusted for the position indication of the calibration hole with the TMD plus 1/16 of an inch, at least 25% higher than screen width. Alright, 10.4.4.2 acceptance criteria welded defects lack of the bond deposited buttering. Greater than DAC curve specified in 10.4.4.1.1 are unacceptable. Indication greater than 50% of the DAC curve longer than that permitted in figure 2 are unacceptable. Separating indication greater than 50% of the DAC curve shall be separated with a minimum distance of 2 inches in any direction. Indication greater than 50% of the DAC curve shall be recorded with the UT ultrasonic test report, amplitude and extent of the location. Show the design material thickness, maximum acceptable limit. 10.5 disposition of rejected fillet welds. Disposition of rejected welds welded not meeting specified the acceptance criteria rejected until the repaired and re-inspected with acceptable criteria. Hardness test of titanium and titanium alloy flame cut surface hard testing should be portable. Hardness tests are conducted with a condition surface approximately 6 inches interval. Sure, all contaminated metal of the being removed. The highest hardness for the condition cart surface should be marked no more than 3 points Rockwell C higher than that of the base material, taken as an average 10 reading, the minimum 1/2 inch for the cut surface. Chapter 11, Allied Processes.